एक मिनट सुनो।
Sound is maximum. Sound is maximum.
30 people already there.
Hello.
May I request all the participants to please mute your mic? Thank you very much. His Excellency Honorable Sri P.S. Karthikeyan ji, distinguished panel members, Professor T.K. Jayaraman ji, executive from the prominent business houses in Fiji, officials of Indian High Commission, eminent audience from Fiji and India, ladies and gentlemen. Namaste, Nisambula, good evening. I welcome you all to this talk session on Indian Budget 2022-23. I am Dr. Avnish Kumar Shukla, Acting Associate Dean, Research for the College of Business, Hospitality and Tourism Studies, Fiji National University. And I'm honored to be the moderator of this session. The Union Budget of India, also referred as the annual financial statement in Article 112 of Constitution of India is the annual budget of the Republic of India. The government presents it on the first day of February so that it could be materialized before beginning of the new financial year in April. On 1st of February 2022, Honorable Minister of Finance Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman presented a 39.45 lakh crore Indian rupee budget, which is equivalent to 530 billion US dollar. And during her presentation, Honorable Minister said India's economic growth this year is estimated to be 9.2%, which is the highest of any large economy. The fact that the economy has rebounded and recovered so rapidly from the pandemic highlights our nation's resilience, as Honorable Minister quoted. As part of the celebration of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, there are three key focus of this budget. One is macro level focus on welfare with macro level focus on the growth. Two, the development of digital economic and fintech, technology enabled development, and energy translation climate action. And third one is using a virtuous cycle that start with private investment followed by a public capital to attract more private investment. Ladies and gentlemen, without taking much time, let me introduce our High Commissioner, His Excellency Sri Palaniswamy Subramaniam Karthikeyan. Joined the Indian Foreign Services in 2004. He holds a bachelor as well as a master degree in economics from the University of Madras. Sri Karthikeyan arrived in Fiji on 8th of July 2021 to assume his assignment as the High Commissioner of India to Fiji. In his previous assignment, Sri Karthikeyan had served as a Deputy High Commissioner of India to Australia in Canberra. During his earlier stints abroad, he had served in the High Commission of India in Maldives and in the Embassy of India in Damascus, Syria, handling political and commercial work besides other responsibilities. In the Ministry of External Affairs, Sri Karthikeyan had worked in the Policy Planning and Research Division and in the United Nations. From May 2013 to February 2017, Sri Karthikeyan was also the regional passport officer in Bangalore with jurisdiction over the state of Karnataka. Later, he served as Director North in the Ministry of External Affairs in New Delhi. Prior to joining the Indian Foreign Services, Sri Karthikeyan worked in the public sector banking industry and also in the private manufacturing sector. Sri Karthikeyan is married to Srimati Vinita, a former system engineer, and is the father of two young kids, a daughter and a son. I request His Excellency to give his valuable opinion on the Indian budget. His Excellency, Honorable P.S. Karthikeyan.
I hope all of you can hear me.
Yes, sir, loud and clear.
A very good evening to all of you, Nisabula Vinaka and Namaskar. It is indeed a great privilege and honor for me to welcome you all once again on behalf of the High Commission of India to this online discussion on the Indian budget 2022-23. I would like to particularly acknowledge the presence of our esteemed panel of speakers before I go forward. Professor Arun Elias, Dean of the College of Business, Hospitality and Tourism Studies, Fiji National University. Mr. Abhay Nand, the President of the Fiji India Business Council. Mr. Sanjay Ambasht, President of the India-Fiji Friendship Forum. And Mr. Anil Chawla, CEO of the Glitz Lighting Fiji. We are indeed honored to have the presence of all of you here today, and I look forward, along with all the participants, to your very valuable insights on this subject matter. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of our participants from across this beautiful country and beyond the oceans, participants participating from India also. I am told Dr. T.K. Jayaraman, an eminent international civil servant who also is a very, very senior colleague of us, a person from the Indian Administrative Cadre 1960, and Dr. Rudra Sen Sharma from IIM Kozhikode are joining us. We are delighted to have their presence with us today and thank this online platform for making this happen. And I think going to the subject matter, I think Dr. Avanish, I think, has laid out the details quite clearly, taking away some of my talking points. But I'll just like to keep it very brief because I, like all of you, would also be interested in hearing the views of the experts on this matter. You know, this is a very special year for us, 2022, I mean, we are in the middle of our Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, our landmark year, historic milestone, 75 years of our independence. And this budget, which is, which was presented a couple of days back by our Honorable Finance Minister, it is to be seen in this context, when we have achieved this 75, when we are at this historic milestone of 75 years of independence and looking forward to the next 25 years, what we call it as Amrit Kal, in our steady progress towards India at 100, in 2047. So here, I mean, there would be a question: why do we need to have this kind of session here in Fiji? Our relationship with Fiji is very special, unlike any other country. It's a special and enduring bond that we have with this country, and I think it is very important for anybody, I mean, whether it's an Indian national or a friend of India, or even for that matter, any foreign national, to know deeply about India, because only knowing them, only knowing it well, only creating a proper awareness would mean that they would be ready for the next step, which is to engage with India. Now, why do they need to know and why do they need to engage with India? I mean, you are really looking at a country which is really like, 1/5, 1/6 of humanity. It is between 1/5 to 1/6 of humanity. I mean, we are, in a few years' time, I mean, we'll be the largest country in the world in terms of population. Not just that, I mean, we are the third largest economy in the world, the fastest growing, large economy in the world, the largest democracy. I mean, we can keep going about why you need to actually, look at India seriously. I see even amongst otherwise very well-informed people, I mean, who are good intentioned, who are otherwise well-informed, there is an acute, a lack of awareness when it comes to India. Either it is a kind of a time-warped, image they have in their mind, or like, bit of an indifference, benign indifference. This is an attempt, this online discussion which we are having, for me, more than getting into the intricacies of the budget, it is an attempt to kind of, educate and create awareness about India, this beautiful part of the world. That is my endeavor. Of course, I mean, the details of the budget, what it is focusing on, other things will be dealt with by the experts. But I think you can just like, you can just understand the broad kind of, the broad focus of this budget when you look at the presentations that would be made here. For my part, I'll just, just touch base on a few things where I think it is done a fantastic job by this fine balancing it has made between, focusing on public investment to revive the COVID impacted economy. At the same time, like, coming up with like, with practical measures, policies to, enhance productivity, including in the sunrise sectors, and to have an inclusive development, and to also look at major infrastructural issues like Gati Shakti. While we are looking at the sunrise sectors and using and embracing technology, like going in for digital currency, going in for digital banking units, and like promoting the startup industries and giving productivity linked incentive schemes to sunrise sectors to create jobs and to create exports. At the same time, we are also looking at inclusive development by earmarking a record amount of fund for basic development For example, I think that this Har Ghar Nar Se Jal, I think that project, I think, is going to change 38 million households by, providing them the basic drinking water facility at home. Maybe some of you will ask the question, at this time, this is not really a big achievement, but you should understand that India still is a developing country with limited resources. So we are doing that now to make sure that, every Indian has this basic essential service provided at his doorstep. At the same time, you should also look at the other aspect of the budget where we are committed to provide during this year an optical fiber cable connection to each and every village in the country. When I say optical fiber connection, we deem it as now an essential service. And now we think it is as essential as drinking water or electricity, because this is where we think there is immense potential to lift them beyond and to open up to immense possibilities that is lying beyond that, village. So it is if you look at it, in some, it is a very forward-looking, very progressive budget, which has done a fine balance between, taking care of the needs of the economy within fiscal prudence, and also at the same time, taking along every sections of the society, including the farming and agricultural sector, which has seen a record amount that has been earmarked for them. This, I think, is in tune with the Honorable Prime Minister's, vision, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, and then Sabka Vishwas and Sabka Prayas, which essentially translates into together for a development of all, and everyone's trust with everyone's effort. This is what I think this seeks to achieve. The details of what it is, I think we will not be able to get into that in such a short time we have. It would not be fair also to expect our panelists to get into the details, but I would request them to give their unique perspectives from each of their own individual position, an academic, a business person, a business council, and a corporate side. I look forward to very interesting insights from you. I look forward to valuable discussions after the presentations by the panelists. And thank you once again for your kind attention till now. And Dhanyavad, thank you, and Vinaka Wakalevu.
Thank you very much, His Excellency, for your kind words. Obviously, yes, this is very good budget. And as PM's believe, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vishwas, Sabka Vikas, or Sabka Prayas, definitely it will change. It will transform the India. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to introduce our next speaker. Next speaker is Professor Arun Ilyas. Professor Arun Ilyas is the Dean for College of Business, Hospitality and Tourism Studies, Fiji National University. And before joining FNU, he was Associate Dean at the Victoria University of Wellington for last 22 years. Professor Ilyas has a PhD in management from Victoria University of Wellington and has MTech from IIT Kharagpur and a second master's from Allahabad University. He is a very renowned professor. He is a visiting professor in different universities internationally, including IIMs and IITs in India. Welcome, Professor. Thank you very much for joining this session. And I'm very specific here with you with my question. You have heard His Excellency, and there is a very focused area in our budget, that is digitalization of India. So as being an academician, as being a professor, how do you see this budget? How do you find whether this is possible to achieve digital India? What are the key features? Can you just briefly explain to us?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, the High Commission, for organizing this event and for inviting me. Especially thank you, His Excellency, Mr. Karthikeyan, for your invitation. And also Dr. Avinash Shukla, our Associate Dean, for moderating this session. So my special thanks for the invitation. As Fiji's national university, and a College of Business, Hospitality and Tourism Studies in the national universities. We are privileged to contribute our thoughts as a college to this discussion, especially using our research, which
I guess there is a technical glitch. Professor's internet connection is unstable. Keeping the time in view, I guess we will come back to Professor once again, once he is here through this Zoom platform. And we'll move to our next panelist. Our next panelist, ladies and gentlemen, is Mr. Abhay Nand. His full name is, his good name is Mr. Abhay Abhiyanand. He's the Managing Director for Nand Group of Companies. Nand Group of Companies comprises of many organizations, for example, Nand Pharmacy Limited, Universal Agencies Limited, Pharma, Super Drug Pharmacies, and Health Point Pharma Group. His core business is pharmacy retail, wholesale, and property investment. He has a very strong leadership skill in business management and new business development. He is a business graduate from the University of the South Pacific and Mara University of the Victoria. Thank you, Mr. Nand, for joining this session today, this evening. You are a very prominent businessman and you are a very prominent importer of the country. So how do you find this budget? What are there for you as being chair of the India-Fiji Business Council, as being patron for India-Fiji Friendship Forum, and as being committee member of many esteemed committee at the business community? How do you find what are there for the business communities in Fiji? Mr. Nand.
I'm coming there. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Shukla, and good evening to all, the High Commissioner and all the panelists and people in the forum. Firstly, I'll just mention that I had a brief on the actual budget presentation, and it looked like a very good budget. And I'm pleased to be here because I'll be the only non-Indian resident in this panel, I suppose. And I'm the only one who have never paid tax in India out of the group. So I can freely say a lot of things in here. But at the same time, I've spent the lesser time than everybody else in India, maybe 50 days in the last 10 years. So I should be getting my OCA card soon, High Commissioner. But firstly, as an outsider, my views, and I feel so privileged that I've been chosen for this. But it was a brilliant budget, I'll say. Budget in the sense that it finished in record time of 90 minutes. Whereas other countries, smaller countries, take about 3 hours, 2.5 hours for the budget. And I feel that the minister did a great job in there in finishing the whole budget in 90 minutes. And that was a great achievement on its own. Right. And there's a couple of things I noticed in there. It's like comparison of tax structure. There was a lot of different tax structures for cooperatives and companies. Cooperatives were paying 18% tax, whereas normal companies were paying 15% tax in India. Now that has come into power. They all will pay 15% tax. That gives a level playing field to all. And being a small country with not too much of import power, we also deal with cooperatives in India. And that gives a better pricing now because their tax has reduced to normal what the companies should be paying. And there's a lot of duty reduction in electronics. Just like one thing I noticed was the camera lens. So that means for our electronic parts, camera lens and electronic parts, there's no duty at all, I suppose. And that makes mobile phones and other gadgets coming out very cheap from India for export compared to other producing countries who could, in the past, give a better price than what India was offering. And the other thing I've noticed is creation of employment. Right, a lot of infrastructure developments are coming up. A lot of people will be employed in India. At the same time, that provides a lot of training to the Indian nationals in there. With that, I think our manpower needs in other countries, we can import a lot of manpower to countries like ours in here, especially the islands, because I got business in Vanuatu and Tonga and Fiji. And we right now, our preference is Philippines and other countries for staff. So with the development in there and with these resources the government is providing and the internet connectivity and the training they're having in there, I think that will make our work a bit easier in getting manpower to our small nation. And the other thing I've noticed is the solar technology. People will get money back. And that is very much encouraged in there. And with it, we can have a piggyback. And Fiji can always be with India and take a lot of lessons from that we can go on the same because we've got a lot of sun in here. We have not utilized it fully. And we all dependent on a lot of imports of oil and other things for our electricity. Right? And within this vast consumption, the encouragement the government has given is mass production of a lot of agriculture in there and electronics and other things. So virtually with mass production, what happens is the prices go down. And with the prices going down, it becomes very easy and cheaper for sort of importers to go and get a better price than any other country. And that's what actually happens with us. And I was surprised the GST collection in India for January 2022, last month, was the highest ever since GST came in India. And that's what the Minister for Finance mentioned, that the highest collection was in January 22. Ever collected the highest collection was there since GST came in. So that means it's a vibrant economy, or people went out shopping very freely. And that only shows the confidence of the people in the country, the confidence of people shopping in there, people buying things. So the market is quite vibrant in there with this spending. And put it this way, if the GST collection was highest ever in January, so a lot of shopping was done and a lot of money changed hands in there. And the other thing was a lot of incentives are being offered to offshore investments too, right? I could see that Indian nationals could have offshore investments in banks and shipping. I think the renting of leasing of ships and other things in there. But the tax structure would be changed so that they don't have to pay too much tax on the income they receive from these ventures outside of India. And the other thing was the 2-year term given to rectify your tax matters to all the companies, all in India, right? If you have avoided tax or you have cooked your books, you are given 2 years to rectify it without any penalty. So that's a big incentive for any company who has been sort of dodging tax, not paying tax or paying lesser tax, to rectify their books without any conviction without any red mark on their books, to rectify it within 2 years without any penalty, and pay whatever is available in there, whatever you have to pay. The other thing I think I've seen is 350 items that were dutiable and could be produced locally have been including medicine, have exemption has been given on that. So the cheaper items can come in here, right? And so somebody has noticed in there that India's reserve is $630 billion US, right? That's a big figure, right? Tremendous progress for India, 630 billion in the reserve. And out of the capital expenditure they're having, 24% of it goes in, I think, infrastructure and all other things in there, building bridges, roads, railway lines, and all those. Right? And they have empowering a lot of citizens in there to see that they become Atma Nirbhar, another term. And how will the exporters benefit from there as an exporter, right? How will we benefit? Right, we'll definitely get cheaper prices out of India now with met production, reduction in duty, and encouragement by the government and the tax incentives they're having in there. And the goods will be available on time. Right now, sometimes we have to wait for a couple of months. We're competing with India, just like medical supplies. We're competing with the countries like Africa. Right, they have a $1 billion order, whereas we from Fiji, smaller countries, we take our $50,000 US order or $10,000 US order for one particular product. Right, and we kept it down the line. Production would be 6 months later, 3 months later. But now, with the increase and the tax incentives they have, I'm sure that production will increase and factories will flourish more in there. Cheaper prices will be available to goods like electronics. I think I've been talking to people about getting mobile phones from India. They're good phones in there. In fact, one of the major mobile provider in here, we just spoke about some weeks ago, getting phones from India, but we did have a bit of a glitch in there. All the technicians are used to Chinese phones for repairs, whereas Indian phones were a bit different when they go for repairs and all those. So they said we have to retrain our staff or get someone from India to come and help us with the repair of the phones in there. So that was something that came to my mind I should mention in here, right? And
Sir, can I request you to cut it short?
yeah,
because
okay.
of the short period of time, availability of the time.
And just like, with more exports in there, we sort of have more shipments coming out of India. So that means our shipments will come faster rather than we sort of having to wait for 6 months or 4 months for shipments to come. Right. So these are the incentives or the good part on our exporters when they're getting things from India. Shipping will improve, time frame will improve in there, and the products we want will come on time. So that's my contribution towards this, and I'm sure that it'll make an impact in this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nand, and this is very pleasure to know that you find this budget very useful, and there are several initiatives taken by the government to improve the export from India. Let me briefly inform you that Indian High Commission is very concerned and is very focused to enhance this relationship between India and Fiji trade. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Arun Elias is back here now. And can I request Professor Arun to resume back and complete his talk?
Thank you, Dr. Shukla. My apologies. I started talking about digital technology and there was a technological issue. My apologies. So let me continue. I was saying, if you are a student of economics, if you go to an economics class in India, they will teach you that, generally transformation, structural transformation in economies happen very structurally. You start from an agricultural economy, then you go to a manufacturing economy, then you move to a service economy. And Indian economists will teach you India is an economy which leapfrogged from an agriculture to services directly. And I think this budget, my question, Dr. Ramanesh asked me a question on digital. I think this from services, this budget helps us to move to a digital economy. So I just want to say 3 things about digital economy. The first thing is about digital universities. Now, Finance Minister made this announcement. This was her announcement. She said a digital university will be formed, formation of a digital university. She says it will provide world-class education. Then she said it will provide digital learning and in regional languages as well. And she also said it will, it will world-class, it will revise the syllabi of agricultural universities as well. Now, I just want to comment on this digital university because I think it is an important step. As Dr. Shukla said, I am from the education sector. Personally, I think it's a very good step in the right direction. It follows the national education policy, which came out recently. World class is important. Something COVID has taught us from an education sector. COVID taught us many things. Let me highlight 3 things COVID taught us. First, COVID taught us education can be flexible. The concept of time is flexible. Second, COVID taught us education can be remote. It can happen through remote learning. And thirdly, COVID taught us to be innovative in education. I think these 3 things, flexibility, remote learning, and innovativeness, get mixed in this idea of a digital university. So I really think digital university is a right step. It becomes world-class. It gives an opportunity for universities outside India to collaborate with standard institutions. Now, this is not a criticism. I also want to look at the challenges a digital universities will face. I think implementation is key. How are we going to implement a digital university? Now, if it is going to be just one central university like Banaras Hindu University or Aligarh Muslim University or JNU, then we have a problem. Because the scale of education in India is so large, we need to penetrate into the regions. So if digital university is going to work really well, first of all, you have to maintain quality. Maintaining quality is a very, very important part. There, I really hope foreign collaboration will come. Foreign universities will play a part in the hub and spoke model. The hub will include institutions, universities from abroad. The other thing is that it is also important that we maintain relevance in the education when you talk about a digital university. But overall, I think digital university is an excellent thing going forward in the digital world. The second one I want to highlight is e-passport. Now, basically, Ms. Sridhar Raman said, government will roll out e-passport with embedded chips and futuristic technology in 2022-2023. Now, these will have advanced security features. These are personal data of applicants would be digitally signed and encoded in the chip. Again, that's a very solid direction, a solid step in the direction of a digital economy. Now, I remember 22 years back when I applied for a passport in Wellington, New Zealand, I was given a handwritten passport. Now, when I renewed my passport, it was a typed passport. From there, I became a New Zealand citizen. When I became a New Zealand citizen, it was an e-passport. So what I'm trying to say is that we have to go a long way. Many countries have gone a long way in this e-passport. India is a digital leader. We are going to different parts of the world, helping them in the digital transformation. So we need this as a continuous improvement. E-passport is a very, very good thing to start, but it should continue to improve, especially post-COVID. Think about the vaccination. Think about the different things which will come out post-COVID in terms of personal data. These things need to be incorporated in the chip so that Indian passport becomes stronger and stronger. So again, I think it is a step in the positive direction. The third thing I want to highlight, the first thing was digital universities. The second one was e-passport. The third one I want to highlight is digital currency. Now, there is an announcement. The announcement is that the budget also proposes digital currency, digital rupee.
May I request everyone to please mute the mic? May I please request everyone to mute the mic? Thank you very much. Administrator, can you please mute everyone from your end? Thank you very much. Professor
Thank you, Dr.
Arun,
Shukla.
please continue.
Thank you. So the third part is budget also proposes digital currency. Now, digital currency or digital rupee is again a very good step in the forward direction. It will make it efficient, cheaper currency management, and especially it is supported by the government. But I should say it is early days. So we don't know about the side effects of digital currency, but I really hope it will be a positive. Now, before I conclude, I want to bring in my colleague from IIM Kozhikode very quickly. He's an expert in Indian budget. His name is Professor Rudra Sen Sarma. Rudra is a friend of mine, a colleague of mine in IIM Kozhikode, a top specialist in the area of Indian budget. Now, he says in his recent article in The Hindu, he says there are 3 I's for Indian budget, this Indian budget. The first I is internet economy. The second I, Professor Sen Sarma says, is inclusive growth. And the third I is infrastructure. Now we have Rudra Sen Sarma here, Professor Sen Sarma here. May I request you to briefly comment on the Indian budget, especially from the 3 I's. Professor Sen Sarma, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. I won't take too much of your time, but good evening to all of you, His Excellency Shri Karthikeyan, others from the High Commission, others from industry, administration, and academia. So I'm delighted to join the event on Professor Arun Elias's request, and I'll share my thoughts just for a few minutes. So as Professor Arun said, I had shared with him this idea of 3 I's, which I thought nicely summarizes the union budget. So what are these 3 I's? The first I is the internet and digital economy. So that's something Professor Arun has already spoken about, which includes digital education. There are 75 digital banking units that will be launched. 5G spectrum auctions will happen. There will be increase in the outreach and access of broadband and mobile internet in rural and remote areas, etc. So that's the first I, internet economy. The second I is inclusive growth. So there's a lot of emphasis and actual increase in budgetary allocation in areas like rural water, rural housing, rural roads, health schemes such as the flagship Ayushman Bharat program, etc. So that shows the inclusive nature of the budget. There is also an announcement that the emergency credit line guarantee scheme for micro, small and medium enterprises, who are the heart of economic activity, that scheme will be extended for another year. So all these will help the lower side of the income distribution. The third I after internet and inclusion is infrastructure. There's a lot of emphasis on capital expenditure. There's actually a 35% increase in capital expenditure. There's a lot of emphasis on building roads. 25,000 kilometers of highways will be built in the coming year. there is announcement of new trains. There is allocation of 1 trillion rupees of loans to the state governments so that they can increase public investments. So on this third I, infrastructure, I'll just conclude by saying that what is very good about the budget is that we have complained about fiscal deficit for a long time in India, saying that fiscal deficit is very high. But really, in my mind, it's not the size of the fiscal deficit which is important. It is the quality of the fiscal deficit. Why is the deficit happening? And this budget has actually improved the quality of the fiscal deficit, because the spending has been reoriented from revenue expenditure to capital expenditure. And that is very important, because now that the economy is recovering from the COVID shock with 9.2% real GDP growth rate, making India the fastest growing major economy in the world, it is time to reorient spending towards asset creation to improve productivity of the economy, which will help growth in the long run. So I think the budget is going to create jobs. The budget is going to improve productive capacity of the economy, and will certainly help GDP of India to increase from the current $3 trillion to $5 trillion in another 5 years. That's 2027. And by 2030, India would have become the third largest economy in the world, crossing Japan, France, and UK, with only will be behind US and China. So the budget certainly supports that growth momentum in the right direction. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Professor Sharma. Back to you, Dr. Shukla.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Arun, Professor Rudra. Thank you for availing yourself. I know you were in meeting and you availed yourself directly from India. I am Kodikoti. So thank you very much. And obviously, yes, this is very notable in this budget. Digitalization aspect of budget, internet economy, inclusive growth, infrastructure. These are very core areas of the budget, and you throw a light on that. Thank you so much for your presence here, Professor Arun, Professor Rudra. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is Mr. Sanjay Ambast, and I'll briefly introduce him. Well, he is a very renowned person in Fiji. Mr. Sanjay is head of South Pacific operations for Resin Pacific Private Limited, which is a paint manufacturing company having its factory located in Lami, Sua area. And he looks after markets of Fiji, Vanuatu, Cook Island, Samoa, Tonga, Kiribati, and other island nations of South Pacific. It's a New Zealand-based company. He has a bachelor in engineering and master's in business administration. Mr. Sanjay has a total of 37 years of experience in paint manufacturing, as well as heavy earth moving equipment manufacturing. He worked 14 years in India. My apologies, sorry, it's a long day. 14 years in India and 23 years outside India, including New Zealand. So welcome, Mr. Sanjay, and thank you for joining today's session. I want to know what you think about this budget, how this budget is going to affect common people in India. What are there in budget for them? Mr. Sanjay.
You can hear me now? Okay.
Yes, loud and clear.
Thanks, Dr. Shukla. And you have been doing a great job this evening, I must say. Very good evening, Bula Binaka, Namaskar to everyone, all the distinguished guests. His Excellency, Mr. P.S. Karthikeyan, thanks for organizing such event, which is really the need of the time, actually. So, answering to your question, I mean, this almost for the first time, if I remember correctly, I have seen a budget which is not an election budget, basically. This budget is for a long term, as most of the speakers are saying and agreeing on that. It's a long-term budget, and the result may come in 1 year, may come in 2 years, but the result will definitely come. And this is going to take India far, far away economy-wise from all the other leaders in the world. I am sure about that. Coming back to what it has for the common man, I tell you the most important thing in this budget which I personally liked was, first of all, there is a nomenclature for everything. There are few critics who always say, why all these nomenclatures? In Hindi, we say Namavali and all those. Why this propaganda? I tell you, it is very important because it creates a focus, first of all. It also creates an interest for the implementers because the budget is announced, is the implementers who are going to do it over the period of time. So that the focus is not diverted, that there are some good names given like Gati Shakti, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, and things like that. So I agree on that because there is a focus. The best thing what I found for the common man is, and being a business person also, I can say, the Prime Minister Gati Shakti scheme. Okay. See, when we talk about economy, cost, when we are sitting in Fiji, we want to bring something from India, etc., etc. The main hurdle which comes, it's not the price of the item. The price of the items, India gives a very good, a very competitive rate. It's the logistics, basically, because we are sitting too far. So I will say from the Fiji perspective, the logistic part has to be controlled, and it was long due actually. If I go through this Gati Shakti thing, see, Gati Shakti, we all know is all the 7 components which actually it leads the business and it controls the business, like road, railways, airports, ports, mass transport, waterways, and logistic infrastructure. There are a lot of things here in this. If I read all this, it will take time, but I will tell you some of the main aspects. If these things, whatever has been announced, are implemented, not in 1 year, maybe in 2-3 years, couple of years, India will go miles away from everywhere, miles ahead of everywhere. Everybody, I tell you. See this airport thing, then we have a master plan of this 25,000 kilometers of national highways. These all things are going to contribute in economy. Then logistic upgradation. Then if I read here, there are things like the postal and railway network is going to be combined together, so that whatever you order, it goes through railway, it is within the land, and it goes overseas if it is through the ship. See why Singapore and Hong Kong, these countries have been the leaders. They don't manufacture anything, hardly anything, I tell you. It's just logistics, just the trading, this and that. India is the leader in manufacturing. What not India manufacture? If we strengthen this Gati Shakti thing, I think we'll go miles on, I tell you. So that is the best thing which I like. And if I go and read all the data and the figures, you all have that, but I will just focus on that. And before that, I would say the Indian market, as Abhay rightly said, is very vibrant and unpredictable. See, during this tough time of pandemic, when the consumers are in a good mood, they can give you a record GST of 1.41 trillion. That's India, right? So the market is there, is only needs the right direction. India has everything. It needs and now this is the time, I think the direction has been shown, is the entire team has to implement that. So that is one of the best parts. And these things, Avinash, Mr. Shuklaji, these things are going to improve and affect. Ultimately, the common man is going to be benefited. Because common man is not a poor man. Common man is a salaried earner. He could be a businessman. He could be a middle class man. That's a common man in India, right? So that is one thing. Everybody, most of the other speakers tonight have spoken about the digital currency thing, which also I personally will welcome that. I would also welcome. We have been seeing in the last couple of years. In the last couple of years, this digital currency, including in India, has been booming up. People are making money, but what India have been making, nothing out of that, right? So the debate was whether to ban it or to control it. I think the best way is you can't ban it. You can ban it, but it will take years and years before you fail ultimately. So it's good to control it, and they have accepted that, and they have done the right thing. Any virtual thing you transfer here and there, 1% TDS will be deducted. Straight and simple. And if you are earning, and there I know plenty, the personal, my friends, they have earned a lot in all these currencies. Whatever you are earning, a 30% tax on the earning. Fine. So that's called control. And at the same time, since this is the demand of the time and India has to be competitive, so India has announced they will start their own virtual rupee. Why not? Okay, Professor rightly said that it may take time, it may take 1 year, 2 years, and we don't know the side effect. Fine, but unless you try a medicine, you know the side effect. It could be 0.001% or 0.2%, but you have to take the medicine when it is needed. So that's the medicine of the time. So that way also it is going to contribute a lot in the economy, I must say. And then there are plenty things on the plate. If we go and read all this, there are plenty things on the plate. Like for the poorer, the housing scheme has been elevated to 48,000 crores or something, right? So that is going to again benefit the common man, of course. So these are some of the things, Dr. Shukla, which I would like to focus without taking much of the time, without reading all the highlights of the budget. I think these are some of the things which I think common man will be benefited. A business person will be benefited, and the country will be benefited.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sanjay. Thank you so much for your valuable contribution and a very thorough analysis on budget. Not taking much time, as Mr. Sanjay said, we'll move to our next speaker. And our next speaker is Mr. Anil Chawla. And Mr. Chawla is born and brought up in Indore in India. And he he came to Fiji. By profession, he is a civil engineer. He has a joint business, family business. And after formal education and gained 10 years of experience working in India, and 18 years ago, he founded what is now Fiji's leading lighting business, Glitz Lighting, and soon to launch into New Zealand. So he's going to open his branches in New Zealand as well, where both his daughters reside, with his career spanning across Google, Facebook, and Deloitte. He is the founder trustee of India-Fiji Friendship Forum and vice president of Fiji-India Business Council. So Mr. Chawla, thank you very much for joining this session today, this very interactive session. I'm keen to know, as being a manufacturer, and something which was not given to me is an information. You are going to establish your plant in India very soon. You are just waiting for this COVID thing to be settled down. So as being a manufacturer, as being a businessman, how do you find this budget? What is there for you? Mr. Chawla, over to you. You are mute, sorry, you are mute.
Hello,
Right.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, loud and clear. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Shuklaji. And thanks His Excellency High Commissioner and Team High Commission for organizing this. It's my pleasure to be included in this. Well, both the academics have elaborated very well. So I have full chance to be brief, not to go very extent. This is a very, very positive budget. As Sanjay said, it was not an election budget. And a very important indication given by the government was that they want to have more and good environment so that there is ease in doing business. The vision of establishing digital banking units in 75 cities sounds very impressive. Digital rupee or digital currency is another very interesting initiative. As far as Fiji is concerned, we still have to learn that what's that. And we saw that promoting the Make in India campaign, focusing on manufacturing, emphasizing on startups, clean energy initiatives, that comes down to me, solar energy. So this looks types to be a long-term growth plan, and it's a very, very long-term vision, superbly crafted and not at all influenced by any politics. So as far as business community is concerned, the budget seems to be a win-win deal. So it was a perfect. It's like 99 out of 100. Yeah, over to you, Shuklaji.
Thank you so much. I wonder where you cut 1 mark. As being an academician, 1 mark is very important. His Excellency and eminent audience, we have a very prominent professor, Professor T.K. Jayaraman, who has joined from Malaysia this evening with us. Thank you. Welcome, Professor T.K. Jayaraman. On behalf of Indian High Commission, I request if you can briefly, maybe 4 or 5 minutes, you can tell us what is there, what a good part or is strengthening part of this budget. Your analysis as being a very senior professor of economics. You are mute, sir. Sorry, you are mute. Administrator, can you please assist Professor T.K. Jayaraman to unmute himself?
Okay, is it okay now?
Yes, we can hear you, Professor. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Shukla. I want to thank the High Commissioner for sending me the invitation through Professor Surendra Prasad. Grateful to him too. I'm also glad to see some familiar faces, and some of you may remember me. I remind them by my articles in the recent Fiji Times, saying that I'm back here writing with youngsters from FNU. Professor Dean is also here at the moment. And Dr. Shukla, nice to meet you again. And of course, this is distance, not learning, distance renewal of the contact. Now, there are good things, certainly we'll talk about it. When economies always compare the crises, you have got the global financial crisis, and then you had the later on the temper tantrum, or the taper tantrum, I should say, of Mr. Bernanke, and the latest is pandemic. How did we fare? Because if an economy goes strength, resilience, by comparing how during this current pandemic, still ongoing, we don't know, with so many variants coming up from time to time, we have done much better than what we have done before. That means it's not crisis prone, it is crisis resilient. That is one great thing. If you look at it, there is one single aspect, is we have got sufficient foreign reserves. Amazingly, 634 billion US dollars, never in the history. During the previous crises, they were not more than 252 billion in the first one, global financial. And then later on, in say, in the taper tantrum, it was 292. Today is 634. That means we can defend the currency. We can defend the currency by simply downloading the dollars, making it cheaper for Indian exporters. So that is the one great thing. It's not that we are ready to download, because it has got some bad effects too. The students of monetary economics, they know it is not that easy to fix a currency. But more importantly, the inflation is the crisis factor, which will loom large for all of us, including substitute for fighting the crisis. It is $90 US, and it may come down, as the economic survey pointed out, to 79 or below 80 US dollars per barrel of crude. I think we can do. It's a kind of wishful thinking, but instead of wishful thinking, that we have to proceed further. That is the energy sector. That is going to be the solution for not only for India and all import reliant economies. And thirdly, we are now worried about the inflation in the rest of the world. That is, US never had such sensational inflation as in the last month. And they are going to raise the interest rate. And that is, somebody said, it's going to be a pandemic of new kind, because that is a challenge. And India should be able to do that because, you know, the Reserve Bank of India is meeting next week. It is 7 and 8 and 9, I think. And they don't have the latest inflation figure of month of January. That is something which I've been writing. I think most of the inflation data, retail inflation, which is the one which India is targeting, will be available only in the middle of the month. But the Reserve Bank of India always meets before the middle of the month arrives. It meets in the first week of the month. That they have to change it. I hope they will do it pretty soon. Now, question is, what will happen if inflation of January is exceeding 6% target? What is this magic figure 6% target? That is 4% is a targeted and plus 2% margin on the right side. You know, it's a kind of a leeway. 4 plus 2, 6. It was last time, it was very close to 5.9. That is below 6% comfort zone. We are going to have a feel that what we are going to do it. Reserve Bank of India is a very efficient central bank and they have to do something. Will they do a symbolic interest rate rise? Because you have to assure the investors. Who are the investors? Today, they are more hot money guys than the solid FDI. FDI cannot be just pulled away at will and pleasure. Whereas the capital inflows, which come in search of a higher return, they may just leave by a click of a mouse. Literally by a click of a mouse, they will leave. So how they are going to meet is a challenge to the governor, well assisted by so many people over there in the bank. And what we have to now be sure how to meet the crises. The one is build up a good reserve position, and for which the export industry is the only industry. And I think service sector was mentioned about by person. What is the service sector? It is not the organized software.
Sir, it looks like your internet is playing up. So I request if you can sum up in a couple of minutes.
Yep. Yeah, I'll finish it. Are you able to listen to me now?
Yes.
Are you okay?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Okay. Now, these are the new challenges coming up. The challenges of inflation, how we are going to meet. I'm confident Indian economy will go through this part of the phase of pandemic of inflation. With I close, once again, thank you very much, sir, for inviting me to the High Commissioners, this particular exchange of views with the people in there. One thing which I have to, before I forget, so what does it interest Fijians in Indian growth? Because we are the natural partners. We should know we have been importing, as I listened to Abhay, that India has been a major importer of food grains from spices. I think Mr. Puja used to go on a camel's back 20 years ago, advertisement. We'll go to any extent of traveling over not only road transport, even animal transport by sitting on the camel's back and getting spices. It is not the spices anymore. You got the software exports from India. Indian export services now dominated by the software. And there can be a major FDI possibilities from India into Fiji. and that will be in FDI, in the services part of the industry, technology oriented. So with that, I conclude. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor. It is always pleasure to hear you. And I had many questions, follow-up questions, but keeping the time in mind, definitely I'll contact you some other time and I'll ask you those questions. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll invite Mr. David Prasad Gupta, Commerce Officer, High Commission of India, to present a vote of thanks on behalf of His Excellency High Commissioner and High Commission of India. Mr. Gupta.
Thank you, Dr. Shukla. His Excellency High Commissioner and the distinguished guests, it is my pleasure to propose a vote of thanks today. I would like to thank the panelists for taking time off from their hectic schedule to be with us today evening. Now, the idea behind this discussion was to deliberate upon the Indian budget and develop an informed understanding about it by engaging with the Fijian stakeholders and the industry members. It is very encouraging to note that during the discussion, all the eminent panelists unanimously agree that the Indian budget 2022-23 is a visionary and a progressive budget, which inter alia presents a range of excellent opportunities to increase the existing engagement of India with other countries, including Fiji. I thank Professor Arun Ilyas for brilliantly presenting his insightful views about the budget and making it easy for the participants to understand its strength and opportunities with the resilient Indian economy. I also thank Mr. Abhayanand, Mr. Sanjay Ambast, Mr. Anil Chawla, Professor T.K. Jayaraman, and Professor Sharma for their invaluable contribution to the discussion as panelists and speakers. We wish that the COVID pandemic situation improves soon so that similar discussion and engagement activities could be organized in a physical format to share ideas in the interest of all the stakeholders. It would be remiss of me not to thank a large number of participants from all cross sections of the society, including industry and academia in Fiji, and some participants from India as well. I'm sure the participants must have benefited from this online discussion. I also sincerely thank His Excellency High Commissioner for his constant guidance and encouragement. I would also like to thank Dr. Avinash Shukla for his enthusiasm and for being part of the event. At last, I thank my colleagues in the mission. Thank you all very much. Have a blessed weekend. Good night and Nisamode.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gupta. Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached to an end of this session, and I wish to conclude this session with a sloka from Mahabharata, Santi Parva. Honorable Minister of Finance, Srimati Nirmala Sitharamanji, she concluded her speech with this sloka. Dapitva karam dharmam rashtra nityam yathavidhi asesang kalpe jatryoga chemana tandrita, means the king must make arrangement for welfare of the populace by way of abjuring any laxity and by governing the state in line with dharma, along with the collecting taxes which are in some consonance with the dharma. So with these words, thank you very much everyone for participating in this very important discussion. I wish you a very happy weekend. Good night everyone. Nisambode.